I saw them. I saw the twins, and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was around midnight, and Lagos was as busy as ever, with cars honking and people moving about. I was tired, heading home from my shift. I work at a small shop, and the long hours always left me drained. The streetlights were dim, casting long shadows over the roadside. I was passing through a Ikeja, not far from where I live, when I noticed two girls standing by the corner. At first, I didn't think much of it. You see girls like that sometimes in Lagos, standing by the road, talking to men in flashy cars. I was about to walk past them when something made me stop and look again. Maybe it was their laughter, or the way they stood under the light. But I turned back, and that's when I saw their faces clearly. Teo and Toyin. I froze. These were not just any girls. They were the twin daughters of Baba Keod, my neighbor. I had known them since they were small, back when they played outside with their friends, running around the compound in their school uniforms. They were always so polite, so quiet. Their father doted on them, calling them his princesses, and boasting about how they were going to be the first in their family to go to university. But now, here they were, dressed in short skirts and tight tops, laughing and leaning on a car with two men who were clearly older than them. Something inside me twisted. I felt sick. What were they doing here? Why were they dressed like this? It didn't make sense. I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought about walking up to them, asking them what they were doing. But what if I was wrong? What if they were just hanging out with friends? I stood there, confused and unsure, before turning and walking away quickly, my heart pounding in my chest. The next day, the image of them wouldn't leave my mind. I kept thinking about the way they had been standing there, the way they laughed with the men, how different they looked from the innocent girls I knew. I told myself maybe it was a one-time thing, maybe they had made a mistake. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I avoided Baba Keod that day. I couldn't look him in the eye. He was always sitting outside his house on a small wooden stool, smiling and greeting everyone that passed by. I would usually stop and chat with him about the weather or the latest news, but that day, I hurried past without saying a word. Over the next few days, I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I knew I had to tell him. It wasn't easy. How do you tell a man that the daughters he loves so much might be doing something like this? But I couldn't stay silent. If it were my children, I would want to know. One evening, when the sun was setting, I went to his house. Baba Keod was sitting outside as usual, wearing his faded green wrapper and a smile on his face. He waved at me as I approached. "Oh, my friend. How are you today?" he greeted me warmly. I forced a smile, feeling the weight of what I was about to say. "Baba, I need to talk to you about something." His smile faded slightly, sensing the seriousness in my tone. "What is it?" I hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "Baba, I saw Teo and Toyin the other night." His face brightened again. "Oh, my girls. They've been busy lately. Always studying, always working hard. I'm so proud of them." I swallowed hard. How was I supposed to tell him? I glanced around, making sure no one was nearby. Then I lowered my voice. "Baba, I don't think they've been working the way you think." He frowned, clearly confused. "What do you mean?" "I saw them on the street," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully. "Late at night. They were with some men, dressed in a way that didn't look right. Baba, I think they've been involved in something bad. It looked like they were working as prostitutes." For a moment, there was complete silence. Baba Keod just stared at me, his eyes wide, as if he hadn't heard what I said. Then he shook his head, his voice trembling. No, not my girls. Not Teo and Toyin. They would never do something like that. I wished more than anything that I was wrong, that it was all a misunderstanding. But the memory of what I had seen was too clear in my mind. I'm sorry, Baba. I didn't want to believe it either, but I saw them with my own eyes. He looked away, his hands trembling. I could see the pain in his eyes. These were his daughters, his pride and joy. How could he even begin to process what I had just told him? Later that night, I heard shouting from his house. It was loud, the kind of shouting that makes the whole neighborhood go quiet. Teo and Toyin were denying everything, their voices full of anger. They swore they weren't doing anything wrong, claiming they were just out with friends. But the more they yelled, the less convincing they sounded. The next day, things were different. The twins no longer walked around the neighborhood with their heads held high. People were starting to talk. Whispers spread like wildfire, and it wasn't long before everyone knew. People said they had seen them in different parts of Lagos, with different men, doing things that no father wants to imagine his daughters doing. Baba Keod stopped coming outside. His stool remained empty, and the once happy man who greeted everyone with a smile now stayed locked inside his house. He wouldn't talk to anyone. It was as if the weight of the shame and disappointment had crushed him. Weeks passed, and one morning, I saw him loading a few bags into a small taxi. He didn't say goodbye to anyone. He just left, quietly, with his head down. No one saw him again after that. As for Teo and Toyin, they disappeared too. Some said they left Lagos, maybe moved to another city. Others whispered darker rumors, but no one knew for sure. The house they lived in became empty, the doors and windows shut tight. Sometimes, I walk past that house and think about them. I wonder how things could have gone so wrong. How two girls with so much potential ended up on the streets. How a father's love for his daughters wasn't enough to save them from the harsh realities of life in Lagos. And in this city, where dreams and dangers live side by side, I've learned one thing: you never really know what's happening behind closed doors. You never really know the people you think you know.